During its heyday from 1682 to 1789, Versailles was more than a palace. It was the center of France's royal world, a combination of power politics, hierarchy, etiquette, fashion, and extravagant lifestyle. The royal family had the best attire at their disposal, ate the most lavish gourmet, and threw numerous banquets, balls, and parties, where they were ready to enjoy earthly pleasure. If you were invited to the palace, you would inevitably be enchanted by its intricate artwork and stunning marble constructions. But wait a second, something doesn't seem right. It smells like dung and urine, which you wouldn't expect from a gorgeous palace. But why? Welcome back to Binge History, where we'll be speaking how it's like to attend a party at the court of Versailles in the 17th century. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more content just like this one and turn on post notifications. With all that done, let's voyage back to Versailles in the 17th century. Nobles didn't always have an easy life at Versailles. Everybody who resided there had to follow a complicated set of strange etiquettes designed to position the king as an all-powerful ruler and his courtiers as obedient servants. Versailles, with its complex ceremonies and courtiers, outlasted Louis XIV. His successors, Louis XV, Louis XVI, and Marie Antoinette, ruled the palace until the French Revolution, which brought the royal world to an end in the late 1700s. Even the basic process of the royal couple getting dressed up in the morning was a show at Versailles. High-ranking courtiers and royal family individuals had specific roles during the lever or official waking, such as bringing the monarch his clothing or holding a mirror to assist the king and queen in getting ready for the day. At the coucher, or going to bed ritual, appointed persons reversed the procedure. Every morning and night, some 100 people flocked to the royal bedchambers to see these festivities. To effectively show their presence at court, according to one courtier, nobility should be absent as little as feasible at the king's lever and at his evening ritual. The French Revolution compelled Louis XVI to flee Versailles for Paris in 1789. The palace will never again be a royal dwelling, and in the 19th century it was repurposed as the Museum of the History of France by King Louis Philippe, who ascended to the throne in 1830. The palace's chambers were then dedicated to hosting new pieces of paintings and drawings depicting famous personalities and significant events in French history. In medieval times, the Palace of Versailles never served as a defensive bastion. Under the reign of Louis XIII, it was primarily a hunting lodge and a private retreat for the king and his family. In 1624, the king entrusted Jacques Le Mercier with the construction of a chateau on the site. The term chateau was first used in the Renaissance to refer to a luxury dwelling in the countryside rather than an urban palace. Therefore, the public tended to call the Palais of the Louvre in the heart of Paris and the Château of Versailles. At the time, Versailles was just a little hamlet. It was demolished in 1673 to make space for the new town that Louis XIV envisioned. The residence was transformed into an enormous and extravagant complex surrounded by stylized French and English gardens. Numerous well-known architects were involved in the project, such as Jules Hardouin, Monsart, Robert Decotte, and Louis Leveux. Imagine the fallout if hundreds of people who had never showered congregated in close quarters around a castle. Horrible body odor. This odor was unbearable, especially after several nights of partying. And in any case, not everyone had access to a bath. And although the palace had running water and numerous baths, there was a common belief that water spread disease. So the less you bathed, the safer you were. Alternatively, the monarch and other nobility would wipe themselves off with a damp towel, but the baths were more for intimacy than for hygiene. And since many nobles didn't have their own bathrooms, they had to rely on chamber pots. Imagine during the middle of a party, but nowhere to relieve full bladders or bowels meant people did their business anywhere and everywhere. and this also included palace hallways. As a result, Versailles smelled dreadfully terrible, and perfume became a courtier's best friend forever. Now you know why French perfume smells amazing. French nobles at the time were famous for indulging themselves in carnal pleasures. Thus, many people wondered how so many courtesans and mistresses were in the palace because the emphasis was on washing one's face rather than one's body. The sheer number of people, along with the filthy conditions in which they lived, caused syphilis to spread and afflict the nobles at Versailles and tormented the court until the French Revolution. Another fear was smallpox, which swept over Paris in 2 outbreaks in 1719 and 1723. There was no treatment, and even if you survived it, it would leave pockmarks on your face, or in the worst-case scenario, it could blind you. It also invaded the Palace of Versailles and killed Louis XV. But it wasn't simply a physical illness that ravaged Versailles. Many French nobles were plagued with lice due to a lack of cleanliness procedures. When you consider that syphilis may cause hair loss as a side effect, it's no surprise that many people chose to wear wigs. The only thing the French elite kept up with was their attire. Linen was used for bed sheets and underwear because it was thought that it could absorb filth and grime. Wearing a spotless white shirt was viewed as a show of prosperity at a time when dirt was omnipresent. As a result, Louis XIV would change his shirt several times a day, as well as his underwear 3 times a day. This rule, however, did not apply to outerwear and would be difficult to wash because of being made of fur covered in jewelry. Some of those items would very certainly never be cleaned and instead dried in the open air. Of course, nice clothes couldn't hide the stink of body odor or even bad breath. Louis XIV had a fistula between his lips and nose, resulting in foul breath. Many other aristocrats had horrible teeth, including the king's wife, Maria Theresa, who had severely awful teeth by the time she was 22 and engaged. Louis XIV hosted a celebration in honor of his grandmother Anne of Austria and Queen Marie Theresa from May 7th to the 13th in 1664. Based on the narrative of Alcine, the magician who imprisoned Roger and his heroic knights, characters from the Book of Roland, Fourreau by Aristo. The subject's love, action, and magic piqued the court's interest. Inspired by Aristo, the celebration was in reality devoted to Mademoiselle de la Valère, the king's mistress. The Duke of Saint-Anand, his director of ballets, picked the topic, while Carlo Vagrani chose the setting. Originally from Modena, Viagrani was appointed Grand Director of Royal Entertainment in 1659 and immediately began bringing machinery and Italian decor to the French theater. The courtiers were treated to a horseback procession in which the king dressed as Roger, complete with a harness of gold, silver, and precious stones, at the commencement of the 3 days. He was escorted along the royal way by similarly richly attired horsemen who were followed by Apollo's chariot. They were followed by a competition in which riders attempted to unhook a ring from a frame using their lances as they made their way to Alcine's palace, which had been erected in the round pool. At dusk, the park was illuminated by thousands of lights, and a ballet based on the seasons started, followed by a lavish feast served by servers dressed in masks and costumes. Vigrani staged a beautiful fireworks show at Alcine's palace on the 3rd day, while a floating whale joined by 2 whale calves took away Alcine and her servants. We all hope you've liked this video, and if you did, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you turn on the post notifications and also let us know in the comments section about your views on how it's like to attend a party at the court of Versailles in the 17th century. Thank you for watching Binge History, and until the next time we meet, continue learning and stay healthy.